Mm-hmm.
You know what is fun, boys and girls and Moogles of all ages? Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. That's right, we are doing our Randothon 2024 submission race. So hello all of you peeps out there in the internet land. My name is the Schwanz27. I'm joined in the commentary booth by Gar. Gar, what's going on this evening?
The Schwanz27. I am doing amazing. It is such a privilege to be able to submit for this wonderful event, which benefits NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I've done some work for them in the past. They're a wonderful charity, so can't wait to demonstrate our great game for you all.
Yeah, and we still use Randomania's overlays for our restreams, so big up to you guys for hosting them on your site. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Let's
cheers.
talk a little bit about what the heck even is this game, Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. It is Final Fantasy VI, or 3 if you were in North America. And in Worlds Collide, this is a randomizer, so a bunch of different stuff is randomized. The items in chests, the items in shops, the abilities on characters, where you find characters, where you find espers, the spells that they teach, the enemies, where you encounter them, the bosses are shuffled amongst themselves, the dragons are shuffled amongst themselves. So a lot of different randomness in this randomizer. Everybody starts with the airship. You can go between the two halves of the game, the World of Balance and the World of Ruin. As far as scaling, it's not like in other randomizers, perhaps, where there's scaling based on location. This is scaled based on how much progression you have towards your end goal of going into Kefka's Tower and defeating Kefka, and we'll talk about that in a second. New characters, espers, and other items are found by doing the events that you come to know and love from the vanilla Final Fantasy VI game. And one of the other really interesting things about this randomizer is that the different areas of the game that you can access depend upon the characters that you have recruited. So, for instance, all of the different areas where Edgar would apply, going to the Figaro throne, going out to the basement of the castle engine and exploring the ancient castle in the vanilla game, those are all game beats that were tied to Edgar's character. So those are the things that are tied to the game if you have Edgar in your cast and crew. Once you found a set number of characters and pieces of magicite, you could then go to defeat Kefka and unlock him and beat the particular game. Now, Worlds Collide is super customizable, so Gar, do you want to talk about sort of our requirements for this particular race that we're going to see tonight here?
Yeah, sure. So for this particular race here, our racers are going to have to recruit 6 characters. They will start with 3 of them. So they will have to find an additional 3 characters in addition to 9 pieces of magicite. That will enable them to challenge Final Kefka atop his Tower of Destruction and hopefully dethrone him. Now, one of the things that you might see on the runner screens is something called the KT skip, the Kefka Tower skip. And what that allows our runners to do is to actually skip very, very far ahead in the tower and stop right before the statue bosses, which in the vanilla game were very, very dangerous. And here, actually, in this particular flag set, we will see the statues in their locations. However, they've shuffled around a bit. So the Poltergeist statue, for example, you might find him at the goddess spot or something like that. At any rate, the skip allows you to jump right ahead to those switches and skip between 5 and 7 minutes of walking up the tower. So potentially a way for our runners, if they're behind, a way for them to get right back into the game.
Yeah, and that is set for 21 different world events. Now, a world event could be any of those things I just mentioned. It could be going and defeating a dragon. It could be going and buying something at the auction house. It could be visiting the Tizen Thief. So those are all things that are considered checks in Worlds Collide. So we will see that in action. Additionally, in order to unlock Final Kefka, and this is where sort of the randomizer marathon incentives will come into play. In this particular example seed, we have set it so that you need to save Sid, which is, the first part of the World of Ruin in the vanilla game. You have to feed Sid all the fish. You can either save him or let him die. So that is a potential incentive for this run for the marathon. People could donate to either save Sid or kill Sid in order to unlock Final Kefka. We decided to be nice to the war criminal tonight, and we are voting that you need to save Sid in order to unlock Final Kefka. We also have some other additional potential incentives that we're showcasing in this race. The shuffled statues, as Gar mentioned, is one of them as well. Along with having a negative status ailment throughout the game. So in this particular case, I chose Auto-Condemned as the particular example negative status. So you'll get a countdown ahead of your characters, and when that timer reaches 0, they finna die. So we do get 3 off the rip. We do get Edgar, which is great because we already talked to you a little bit about the checks that Edgar basically unlocks. We also get Strago and Go-Go. So Gar, where in the world can we go now that we have these characters?
Well, so like the infographic that we showed you earlier, Edgar has access to his castle in the World of Balance and the World of Ruin, although there's an asterisk on that latter one. So we can go ahead and go right into the castle as we see Christopher Workin, looking like he's about to do. Additionally, you are able to go into the South Figaro Castle basement, where you would normally fight the tentacles in the vanilla game, in addition to going to the Ancient Castle, one of my personal favorite locations from the vanilla game. And those are the 3 Edgar checks. We also have Strago. Strago has 3 checks of his own in the Burning House, what we lovingly call the Casa del Fuego.
Toasty.
We have Ebbett's Rock, where you fight Hydon. And we've got Fanatic's Tower, where normally in the vanilla game it would be Magimaster, a very dangerous enemy. But here, it's a randomizer. It could be anything up there. And Go-Go, finally, has access to the Zone Eater check. This one was one of the ones that I never really found as a kid, but in the vanilla game, in that triangle island in the northeast corner of the map, you can find the Zone Eater enemy. It will use this thing called Engulf, and there's a whole new zone down there, and that's where you would normally find Go-Go.
Yeah, so the other interesting thing, as Physics Shebang actually accidentally talks to Relic Guy and is going to get a cutscene, you hate to see it happen here, is that we give our runners 3 Moogle charms in order to avoid those random encounters, or if they'd like to take some random encounters to get some levels, because we start everybody on level 3, then you could simply take off the Moogle charm and you will be able to fight those particular random encounters. So that's another interesting thing about the randomizer, to avoid the lengthiness that's associated with playing this vanilla game. We've also removed a lot of the cutscenes and dialogue, although not Relic Guy, clearly. So
he's way too strong to go.
Yeah, you have to talk to him accidentally every once in a while. That is, you're a Worlds Collide runner when you do that. But yeah, so we've eliminated some of the cutscenes and some of the dialogue to streamline this, to make this more of a racing randomizer versus some of the other Final Fantasy VI ROM hacks out there that you may be familiar with. We are, however, going to see a very famous cutscene, hopefully, by some of these runners as an incentive. Well, I shouldn't use that word because that means something different in a marathon setting, but as a little nudge to our runners to go do it. The Opera House scene, where you have to pick the correct dialogue and you have to dance with your partner, you will get a high-tier weapon, high-tier piece of armor, high-tier shield, and high-tier relic for doing that. So it really behooves our runners to go and spend the 4 minutes or so to do that when you get 4 really, really good items.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my favorite scenes in the vanilla game, and I suspect that for people who have played Final Fantasy VI, that the Opera House is one of their favorite scenes too. So the runners get to do it and get a nice reward at the end of it. It does take a little bit of time, between 4 and 5 minutes. And, you know, it is a randomizer, and we are racing. We're trying to go fast. So we want to give them a little bit of a nudge, like the Schwantz said, to get them to go there and jumpstart the rest of the seed.
Yeah, so one of the things, or some of the things that are not actually randomized about the randomizer. So the weapon stats and abilities are not randomized, meaning the certain swords that proc magical spells will still do that, or they have a chance of doing instant death will also still do that. The boss scripts are largely the same. The spells that they cast may be scaled up or down based on the scaling that I'll talk about in a second. So if, let's say, Flame Eater usually will use Fire 2. If Flame Eater is strong enough, then that boss may eventually use Fire 3 or some other more powerful fire spell in place of that. But the boss scripts are largely the same, as well as their weaknesses. So our runners need to not only know a little bit about the randomizer, but they also need to know a lot about the vanilla game in order to make their way through any given seed to finish it and take advantage of the things that they're finding here.
Yeah, one of the design philosophies behind Worlds Collide is that we want to keep it as close to the vanilla game as possible, while still also making it a randomizer. To that end, like we don't create new items like you might see some other ROM hacks do. We don't add additional effects to anything. So the items that you get in the vanilla game, like the Schwantz said, are largely unchanged from the vanilla game. So that being said, there are a couple of quality of life improvements. For example, Cyan in the vanilla game has the sword tech ability, and if you remember sword tech in the vanilla game, it charged up very, very slowly.
Resident Sleeper.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we did was that we added a faster charge time for sword tech to make it not quite so cumbersome to use. And one of the beautiful things about the randomizer is that if you are so inclined, you can disable that. But why would you really?
Yeah, so Worlds Collide is full of really interesting options that you could do. We have sort of a normal palette here for our characters. You could swap out sprites and put different sprites in the game. You could also change tons of different things about the randomizer. We have sort of, you know, conglomerated a lot of this in the middle, where the items and shops cost, you know, between 75 and 125% of their vanilla stats. The stats on the characters, rather, are, you know, within a certain range of what they are in the normal game. But you could just throw sliders up and make these wild things. One of the popular things to do is to make what's called a barter seed, where items will all sell for the same amount of money. So that this way it's sort of like, hey, I will sell 2 items in order to purchase 1. You could make shops free, so this way you could buy whatever the heck you want. You can make chests completely empty, so you don't have to loot them at all. And there's a lot of different things that you could do to make this randomizer your own, which is one of the great things about making a randomizer for an old game. It keeps it fresh every time.
I love Final Fantasy VI. It's maybe my favorite game of all time. And Worlds Collide has just injected so much life into the game. We have a great community. It's under constant development. We're adding new features on a regular basis. Our community is constantly growing. We have a bunch of great new racers. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of them here on display for you. So I absolutely love it, and I hope that you will all give our little community a look.
Yeah, so One Free Fits is at the halfway point, I would say, in the opera scene. Drinks Glue and Christopher Walken just starting it. Meanwhile, Physics Shebang is doing the Sid quest. So in order to save Sid, you basically have to go down to the lake and you need to feed him those fish that are swimming very fast. they will restore his HP much better than those fish that swim at a medium pace or at a slow pace. So after he says, "I feel much better, thanks," now you know Sid is good to go. So Sid has been saved. That is one part of the Kefka unlock requirements done already for Physics Shebang.
Yep. And in order to kill Sid, you have to either feed him the very slow fish, or, and this is something that I didn't know about until I did the randomizer, you can, there's a timer that starts once you talk to him, and his health depletes every second that timer ticks. And after, I think, a couple of minutes...
2 minutes. So his HP is at 120, and it goes down by 1 every second. Feeding him the fast fish will restore, you know, the most HP. Feeding him a medium fish can either, you know, help him or hurt him a little bit. I can never tell between the medium fishes which is which. They're two the same for my old eyes. But then the slow fish, not only do you have to try and catch it, which can be very annoying because they often don't swim right at you and they swim slow anyway, but you have 2 minutes at the very worst in order to kill Sid. And here we see the objective system, which was something that was introduced, and it really opened up, I think, a lot of doors to Worlds Collide, where you can reward players for doing things, you could punish players for doing other things. It really makes it so that it's, you know, a real living, breathing game where it sort of evolves as you're playing through it.
Absolutely. And in this particular seed, you notice that the text there said high tier item, and what high tier item means is a little bit fuzzy, but basically the gist of it is that it is an item that will greatly enhance your ability to go through the seed. So for example, the Illumina sword, perhaps the best sword in the entire game, that is considered a high tier item, right? On the other end of the spectrum, you have equipment like the Genji helmet, which is my favorite thing to sell in the entire game.
Yeah, sometimes if you don't want a high-tier item, you could always sell it and make yourself some cash to buy something that you actually want. That's always a real fun thing to do. You can also customize what those high-tier items could be, and you could even make them empty, which is something that I know we have done to troll some of our runners every once in a while, so it's interesting to see that. So now that we talked about Worlds Collide a little bit, as we see One Free Fitz taking off the Moogle Charm, did not like the enemies he found outside of the Opera House, so he's heading outside here, and these ones are a little bit more palpable for his particular needs. So Gar, talking about the game and what you would do first, you know, you talked about the areas that we can go. What would you be doing first with these set of characters that we have here?
Well, one of the things that I like to do is rack up the so-called free checks, and those are checks that don't have a boss at the end of them, and that also don't have any fixed encounters in order to get through it. So, for example, the Zone Eater check, that's Gogo's check, you can just walk straight through that and go to the very end and collect your reward there. And I would consider doing that too. That would probably be where I start. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be looking to get some experience. So you see One Free Fitz fighting these Luridans. Luridans are a pretty good encounter here. So that'll get him off of level 3, which is one of the most important things at the start of a seed. And after that, I know that Fitz in particular likes to go to the Burning House. And I don't mind that play either, so that's probably where I would be headed.
So, interesting thing to note, so the items that our runners did receive, the high tier weapon was a pair of fixed dice, the high tier relic was an experience egg, the armor was a behemoth suit, and I believe the shield was a thunder shield. So yes, that's sort of a goodie bag that we got there. And Fitz is having a little bit of trouble with this grind fight, and that's because he has taken 2 pieces of Espers for free. So his enemies are going to be at the level of his number of characters, his number of Espers, and the number of dragons. So that's 3 plus 2 plus 0. And I'm sorry, there's going to be a little math here. Don't tune out. But that means that these enemies are at level 10 while he's only at 3. So that's why it's a little bit of a struggle here. The enemies are also scaled downwards or upwards depending upon what their original levels are. But that's sort of why one free Fitz may have a more difficult time than, say, Christopher Warkin here on his side, because his enemies are actually going to be a little bit more tough.
That is one of the unique things about Worlds Collide, is its scaling system. If you're familiar with other like Final Fantasy randomizers, like the Free Enterprise, which is the one for Final Fantasy IV, that one, it's the location of the boss that holds the stats and not the boss itself. But here, it is dependent on how many checks you complete, or rather, how many characters, espers, and dragons you come across.
Right. And meanwhile, that's just this particular set of settings, right? You could change the scaling to be whatever you want. You could leave it the original as it is in the game. All the enemies are their original levels. You could scale it based on time. You could scale it based on, you know, a few different other things. Whatever your party highest level is at is also another popular, like, one that's what we sometimes refer as a mirror match seed, where your enemies are going to be the same level that your characters are, no matter what. So there's lots of different options that this game holds, and it's sometimes a bit on the unwieldy side if you just start looking over all of the different options. So Physics Shebang is... flags. Yeah. So Physics Shebang is actually in the Zone Eater that you mentioned. Took his party down to 1 so that Engulf is going to be quicker. This is a speed run after all, so we want to get through these as fast as we possibly can here. And he'll get a reward at the end of this. I don't know if he has a warp stone or not, so he might have to walk out of here instead of warp out of here. Meanwhile, let's call attention to what Drinks Glue is doing. He's at the Coliseum. So in this particular set of options, the Coliseum has a random amount of rewards displayed. The rewards and the enemies that you fight are randomized. So Drinks Glue just found a Illumina as a reward for a piece of Magicite, but unfortunately, that dinosaur said no thanks.
That is one heck of a fight there, that's for sure.
Alright, so at the end of the Zone Eater was Fenrir, which is a wonderful Esper. So as our runners are going along in this particular seed, they are looking to tackle the challenge that's immediately ahead of them, but they are also thinking in the back of their mind about the last boss of the game, because it is always the same. It is always Final Kefka. And one of the parts of Final Kefka, it's a 4-part battle. One of the parts will hit you with an instant death physical attack, and you want some way to counter that. And one of the ways to do that is to summon an Esper. Fenrir is one of them that will dodge those attacks. I think Fitz grabbed an experience egg, a second one, since he already got one from the Opera House, out of a bucket there before going into the burning house here.
Yeah, so very
more dinosaurs for Glue. Jeez. What is going on here?
In you know, we're being all Jurassic Park up in here, you know. In this game, levels dictate a very large portion of your damage output. The more levels you have, the much better off you are. And the experience egg doubles the amount of experience that you get per fight. So at the beginning of a seed, it is by far the most valuable thing you could ever get. So you got one of them from the Opera House, and Fitz grabbed the other one there in Thamasa. So he's going to be sitting high on the hog, I think.
Meanwhile, Drinks Glue is running into some unfortunate mobs here. This is another high-end mob that you usually don't want to fight. because he does want to get some levels so that he could win that Illumina off of the Coliseum fight. Same thing for Christopher Warkin, also taking some grind fights, and Physics Shebang is going to head up to the top of Norsh here. This is an interesting play.
This is not one that I would have expected, but I don't think I hate it, honestly.
Yeah, so we did see Realm peeking out of that little cave. So in Worlds Collide, there is a concept called a peekable check, where you could see what the reward is before you decide to go do that particular world event. And in this case, Realm is the reward for doing the Umaro spot. So if we get Umaro, we know that we also can get Realm. This Kefka at Norsh is not actually gated by any character, and the NPC sprite, that's an imp, indicates that this won't be a character here at this particular spot. So this will be either one of those high-tier items that we mentioned or an Esper. The interesting thing about the Kefka at Norsh fight is, just like in the vanilla game, you have to split your party up into 2 different sub-parties. So for this fight, he can only use at most 2 characters to fight the boss, because he only has a party of 3 here. So usually we see Kefka at Norsh reserved for when you have 4 or maybe 5 characters recruited onto your team already. So we'll see if this pays off, because you can take these random encounters that the soldiers are supposed to be on your way to the boss here.
Yeah, absolutely. If this boss is pretty easy, and if this Esper, or even if it's an item, if it's something that our other runners don't get, this could potentially put Physics Shebang in a pretty commanding spot.
Yeah, so maybe he's thinking, you know, since he is a newer runner, I'm going to do something that the other runners might not do, and I'm going to hope for an advantage here. That's one of the beautiful things about this game, is that since it's not necessarily a key item hunt, although you can make it a key item hunt with the right parameters into the game, since it's not a key item hunt, we just need to get a number of characters, number of Espers in this particular case. There may be multiple paths to victory, which is, I think, unique amongst randomizers. There's not a lot that do that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, Physics Shebang taking the reset there. Didn't like the random encounters, I suppose, and is just going to hoof it down the mountain. So...
yeah, so we do have a question from chat from Guanyu282. So we do have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/FF6WorldsCollide. This is where we broadcast races. We'll put tutorial videos up. We'll put follow-along seeds for beginners on our YouTube channel. But a question is, can someone explain what Overcast is from this flag set? So this particular flag set doesn't have Overcast. Those little numbers above the heads that One Free Fits has in battle is the condemned counter. So if that number reaches 0, then that character dies. Overcast is sort of a combination of this condemned status, and when characters die, instead of falling over with what's called the wound status, they will instead get a zombie status. So they will hit random targets with the fight command. So that's the difference between condemned and Overcast and dying or wound, essentially.
In the vanilla game, Overcast was cast by the Goddess statue boss. And it's only after, I think, like 8 attacks, if I remember the script.
I think it's either 6 or 8 turns. It's in that range. Once the fight gets that long, it's going to be a problem.
Anyway, 100%.
So that was Tunnel Armor, who's normally in the South Figaro Cave at the Burning House there, and One Free Fits does get past it with all of the levels that he got from the little flames in the Burning House. One of the dangerous things about the Burning House is if Fitz could not defeat that boss, then he just lost out on all of those levels. Because unlike in the vanilla game, the randomizer does not give you the levels that you attained when you reset the game. So that's one slight different change. And we do get Terra at the end of the Burning House as our 4th character there, which is nice to see. Meanwhile, Christopher Warkin in Ebbett's Rock accidentally gave the coral chest not 21 or more, or is it 22?
22.
22 pieces of coral. So the coral chest just ate all of the coral that he was given and said, thank you, go give me some more. So you have to start over from 0, and I hope that he realizes that. Otherwise, he's going to be in this for a long time. Meanwhile,
yeah,
I don't know if you saw.
Really unfortunate.
I don't know if you saw in the bottom left, Drinks Glue is down in the Edgar set of checks, and in the Figaro engine room, we will find Cyan masquerading as Gerard there. So already we could see that there are 2 different paths through this seed potentially, because we now have checks from Terra, which, you know, Gar, you can talk about in a second, and then checks from Cyan as well.
Yeah, having that divergence there, like you alluded to earlier, that's one of my favorite things about this game. Now, it being a randomizer, sometimes you get a linear path through the seed. And so far, this one does not appear to be the case. And that is absolutely my favorite thing. So, one free fits going to the burning house and walking out with that Terra. Terra is a great character. She can equip a lot of great weapons and a lot of great armor. And she has a set of 5 different checks. I would say that 4 of them are really good, and the 5th one, it's okay. It's a fan favorite. And that 5th one being the Leet River check, where in the vanilla game, you went down the Leet River on your raft and you would fight the first Ultras there. So don't tease the octopus.
Speaking of teasing, that is a dabbing Yeti there, an Umaro on Drinks Glue's screen. So that is going to be his first boss. And he already knows that the reward is Cyan, so we'll see if he gets past that. One of the great things about Terra is you do get access to this treasure room in the Imperial camp, which I think you only get after doing the banquet if you answered the questions properly. Unfortunately, we don't have the banquet scene in Worlds Collide because we had to have one place to dump a lot of this custom code that we had to put. And unfortunately, the banquet scene was one of the ROM places that we had to cut out in order to fit this in our 4K RAM space, which is pretty nuts that they made an entire game just based on 4K.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't happen today.
No. Nope.
But yeah, Terra, another reason she's very popular is specifically because of this check right here. It is very treasure dense, so a lot of runners, like if they start with Terra, for example, will just rush this check right here and get all the chests in there because, like, it's just amazing.
So Christopher Warkin eventually found his way to the end of Abbott's Rock. I didn't even see who the boss was that he fought, but he did get an Illumina. So we consider that what's called a dead check. It's not a character or it's not an Esper that goes towards unlocking Kefka. So, unfortunately, it is an item. It is one of the better items in the game, so at least he got that. However, he will not increase scaling because, again, it's not a character or an Esper. So sometimes dead checks are good if they reward good things and you get a lot of levels at it. Other times, it's bad if you already have everything you need and you just want to get to the requirements quickly.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Christopher is too upset about picking up the Illumina. He's got 2 characters that can naturally equip it, and in this flag set, there's an additional 33% chance that another character who normally couldn't equip it will be able to.
Alright, so we did get Cyan, and Drinks Glue did actually break one of his shields. So, and then mimicked it with Go-Go, which is a really smart play from him there. One of the things you can do with Go-Go is you can mimic an item usage, even if you don't have that item in your inventory. And using a shield in battle will cast a maximum damage tier 3 version of whatever element it is. So that's how he got past Umaro there. I didn't see which Esper it was for Fitz, but on his tracker, he said it was an Esper. So that's that. The imp number next to the imp is the number of checks that our runners have done. So we are using that just to keep track for the sake of our Kefka Tower skip here.
Okay, so one interesting thing that Drinks Glue just did was walk out of the World of Ruin Figaro Castle. And that's interesting because there is another check that you can get if you choose to go back underground. You can tell the guy in the basement to move the castle to Kolingen, and it'll stop right in the middle, and he'll say, hey, it looks like we bumped into something. Do you want to explore? And in the vanilla game, that's the ancient castle. And that is a check that Drinks Glue could have done, but did not. He is banking on there not being any additional progression at that spot. So kind of a risky play, but it is a very long check. So very, very, very interesting. I'll be curious to see how this goes.
So I did not see what command Cyan has, and we didn't see what command Terra has because One Free Fits has not gotten into a battle yet. But the commands on our characters are randomized, and certain commands will favor certain characters based on what the stats of those characters usually are and what the commands usually go for. Things like lore are based on magical stats, whereas things like tools are based on physical stats most of the time. There are exceptions. Of course, this wouldn't be a Final Fantasy game if there weren't exceptions to the rule here. But Cyan opens up 3 different areas. The world of Balanced Doma, where you fight the leader. The Mount Zozo, where you recruit him in the world of Ruin. And also a 3-part check here, which is where Glue looks like he's going, Cyan's Dream. It contains 3 rewards, but you have to fight 2 bosses in order to do it. The first and third reward is Esper item only, and the second reward is guaranteed to be a character in Esper. So he's going in here, finds a Valiant Knife in a chest, which is one of those high-tier weapons. We'll see who could equip it, and Cyan can. So that's what Cyan will be doing for the rest of the seed, I would tend to think here.
One Free Fits, meanwhile, showing off the fixed dice. And also saw, Setzer in the cave, unfortunately locked behind Funbaba here.
Yeah, so yet another peekable check that we mentioned, and using the fixed dice, which normally only Setzer can equip in the vanilla game, and the Valiant Knife only Locke can equip in the vanilla game, so there's that 33% chance that you mentioned coming into effect for our runners here.
Absolutely. Fixed dice, a very, I would say, polarizing weapon. I know that some people like it, and a lot of people really do not.
Yeah, it's very useful early and mid-game, and it sort of tails off later on because of the randomness of it. Instead of damage based on the normal damage formula, which accounts your strength stat and your levels, it's based on whatever you see on the dice rolls, added together and then multiplied by your level.
And then multiplied by 2.
Yeah, so, and it can also be multiplied by itself if you roll 3 of the same thing. So you could tell that it could get rather wild with how high the damage goes, because it's just based on your level, it's not based on other stats. And it also doesn't get the offering penalty of getting half damage that you would normally associate with it. So that's one of the reasons why it's great. It also ignores defense and does the same amount of damage from the back row. So it's got a lot of positives, but the animation time that it takes to roll those dice and the high variability as you get further on into your game make it less and less so a viable option there.
Oh, but we see something very, very powerful. Drinks Glue found Cyan. Cyan has the Rage ability. In the Randomizer, or at least in this particular flag set, you start with, I think it's 25 to 35 different rages.
Quad 9s. There's the power of the fixed dice there.
one of the encounters that Cyan... excuse me, let me back up a little bit. The way that Rage works here is that you don't need to leap onto the enemies on the Veld with Gao in order to get your rage. Rather, you automatically get the rage after you defeat those enemies. Well, Drink's Glue found the Stray Cat formation in World of Ruin Narsh. And Stray Cat is one of the most powerful rages in the game.
Yeah, so the Stray Cat Rage will do 4 times damage for a physical attack. Considering he also has a Valiant Knife on his character, which is one of the stronger weapons in the game, means that Glue is set up for a pretty good thing here. He also has Go-Go, and Go-Go can equip basically any ability that anybody else in your team already has. So that Go-Go can also become a Stray Cat user, just by the nature of being Go-Go. So that's really, really good for Glue here.
Absolutely. And one of the great things about doing 4 times damage is that you don't necessarily have to worry so much about what weapon you have equipped. Normally, weapons are kind of a big deal in this, but I mean, when you do quad damage, it kind of doesn't matter, right? You can use like basically any weapon that has a lot of battle power. So, for example, the Sky Render Sword, or anything similar to that. Normally, in the Randomizer, we don't consider that like a high tier weapon, but here, like in Drink's Glue scenario, that would help quite a bit.
Yeah, so the Valiant Knife, since it has a special damage property whereby it does damage based on the amount of HP you're missing, doesn't really synergize with Stray Cat because of the way the damage is calculated, but other high-tier weapons that you mentioned, Gar, definitely do. Here's another interesting thing. If you take the Moogle Charm off in Cyan's Dream when you have the Magitech armor on, you will get the Magitech command from back in the very, very beginning of the original Final Fantasy VI game, where you have Terravix and Wedge riding on these mechanized objects. Magitech is also a command that you can add to your, list of random commands that a character can have, as well as Banon's ability Health, Meh, or Leo's ability Shock, or, even cooler, one of the ghosts on the Phantom Train's ability of Possess. And Possess is super duper broken, because you could possess anything in the game. So normally we turn that ability off as one of the ones that is able to be randomized, because you could essentially defeat anything once you have Possess.
Possess is, if you don't know, it's basically an instant death attack, with the difference being that nothing in the game, not even the final boss, can resist it. It does have a chance to miss, but if it hits, it dies.
Alright, so 1 Free Fits finishes up the Kefka at Narsh battle and will be transplanted back down to Arvis's house here in order to exit out of Kefka, rather the World of Balance Narsh area. Did get a 4 shield for his efforts, which is unfortunate, not really what you wanted to see, but he does have Setzer, and now we could talk about where we can go with Setzer. So Setzer opens up 3 different areas, the first being the Kolingen Inn, where you recruit him in both the World of Balance and the World of Ruin. He also opens up Daryl's Tomb, which is where you get the Falcon airship in the World of Ruin. And he also allows you a new option on the controls of the airship, where you can search the sky to fight Doomgaze, or what would be at the Doomgaze spot, right? Remember, it's randomized, whatever boss you find there. So that is something that you could do as well with Setzer. Meanwhile, we do have a river rafting ride, so shout out to all of you river rafters out there. Physics shebang at the end of the Leet River with Niles and Fraser, the cranes.
Cranes here are...
I'm sorry,
are funny. No. That's all I had.
Yeah, so one of the other things that you get for doing the finish of Cyan's Dream is you unlock all 8 sword techs like you do in the vanilla game. So that is an option for you as well. You could make that an objective or not, so that's some more customization you could do. Question from the chat, AA Antonio, does the Vanish Doom glitch work? So in Worlds Collide, we have patched out a lot of those vanilla glitches, including the sketch glitch, Vanish Doom, all sorts of other weirdness. There are flags and options that allow you to turn those glitches back on if you want to have them in your game, but for most normal standard default races, we turn those glitches off. Otherwise, weird stuff may happen. And there's a lot of bosses that don't have Vanish immunity, so it would be a relatively easy seed if we didn't do
that. There's a couple of other, I would hesitate to call them fixes, but so for example, the Ghost Train is an undead boss, and normally in the vanilla game, you're able to use a Phoenix Down on it to kill it instantly. In Worlds Collide, there is a flag called No Undead, which removes the undead status from a lot of bosses. So, Ghost Train will not be able to be revivified or Phoenix Downed or anything like that. But what it does do is allow them to be killed by regular Doom or the X-Zone spell.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's because we want the runners to actually fight those battles and not have an easy, cheap way out. There are a couple of other bosses that we do certain things with in the randomizer, and we'll talk about them if they come up. Rexol is one of them, where we don't have the Zinger property, where he possesses one of your character's bodies. We do that because in Kefka's Tower, if we find him, it basically is really bad news if you only have 6 characters, which means you only have parties of 2, which could get really, really dicey. Same thing with Magimaster and his Ultima counter, because we're not guaranteed to find Life 3 in the seed, so that would be completely unfair to do that, right? So there's a few bosses that we have tweaked a little bit. Meanwhile, Drinkskaloo did take down number 24. I thought that was Magimaster, so that's why I started talking about Magimaster there.
Yeah, they have the same sprite.
Christopher Warkin, meanwhile, did find an Atma weapon in a chest in Ancient Castle, so if Drinkskaloo went down there, he would have had another build for one of his characters. One Free Fitz is fighting Guardian at the Daryl's Tomb, and the inscription read, Celeste lays here. So we know that Celeste is going to be One Free Fitz's 6th character from this particular fight.
Once again, that divergence coming into play here. Drinkskaloo does not have access to... does not have access to Celeste. Not yet, anyway. He is in Thamasa, so if he chooses to do the Burning House here, he will be set up very nicely. Now, he does find the offering here in the Relic shop, so gonna get that cat scratch just so online that it hurts.
Christopher Walken, meanwhile. So for the Ancient Castle, there only is the quote-unquote Raiden Esper reward. You don't actually get Odin and Raiden. There's only one check there at the bottom of the Ancient Castle. And there is a chance to fight this dragon here, which will not only grant you a lot of XP, it'll grant you 50 MP, so that makes you learn basically any spell in the game. It will drop its vanilla drop, which is usually a pretty decent item. In this case, the Storm Dragon, I think, drops a Force Armor. And it will also drop one of those high-tier items that we mentioned, because it does count as a check. Anything that is a check will drop at least a high-tier item. Meanwhile, Physics Shebang is got Setzer online from that Welk spot check.
And Drinkskaloo is, in fact, going into the Burning House. So, gonna walk out with their Terra.
Very nice. One Free Fitz, meanwhile, is down in the South Figaro basement. This is where one of Celeste's checks are. In the vanilla game, where you find her chained up for daring to question Kefka. That is one of her spots. Additionally, she has the Opera House Disruption, where Ultros decides to push some weights on your party, and also grants access to the Magitech Factory, which is a 3-part check in this particular game, so it can give you up to 3 rewards.
I like the Magitech Factory personally, and I think a lot of runners do too. The first 2 parts there, the first part is where in the vanilla game you would fight Ifrit and Shiva, so that can reward either an Esper or an item. The second part is you walk up the stairs and you fight number
24.
24, thank you. There's a bunch of different numbers in this game. You fight him.
Yeah, there's also number 28 after 128 afterwards.
128. I remember that one.
Okay, there you go.
At any rate, once you fight number 24, you get either an Esper or an item there. The final check involves the everyone's favorite minecart ride.
Mode 7 graphics, yeah.
Looks great. But you do have to fight number 128 and the crane spot afterwards. So it is 2 bosses. However, the benefit to doing that is that that check is guaranteed to be either a character or an Esper. So if you need guaranteed progression, you might want to give that a look.
Yeah, so Fitz being at 6 and 6, he may get his Kefka unlock if he gets all 3 Espers from these 3 checks. So that is what he's banking on here, and we'll see if we can make it happen for him.
I'm hoping so.
Meanwhile, Physics Shebang showing off how Coliseum AI never does what you want it to do, trying to get that Illumina off of that Chaos Durgan, and being unsuccessful multiple times.
Just says, nope. Let's go do something else.
Yeah.
Search the skies. I believe it's Narapa up here. Narapa, not a difficult boss in the slightest.
Unless you can only use magic, because Narapa has a innate reflect status on. So if you only have magic, then this fight can sort of be a problem. So think if you fight this boss in Kefka's Tower. Not Kefka's Tower. Fanatic's Tower.
Oh, yeah. Now, she is vulnerable to instant death, but that reflect status will reflect any doom that you cast on her. So if you have X Zone, for example, she can get swallowed up by that, and that's a good way to kill her.
Otherwise, see what you did there, X Zone, X Sample.
And she does spit out an Esper. I didn't notice this the last time, so
it is
get the whale.
Yep. It's Fudgy. Bismarck. I could use some ice cream cake right about now, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that's a nice one for Fitz.
Absolutely. As we're going to be coming up to the tiers here in a little bit, we'll start talking a little bit more about some of the tools that our runners are going to be looking for in order to help them with that fight. And Siren is definitely one of those tools.
Yep, that'll mute everything on the screen, and there is a part of Final Kefka that only casts magic, but is hilariously susceptible to mute, so you basically can nullify that one part of the boss.
Yep, and the mute status never goes away, so enjoy.
Yeah, so speaking of enjoying things, one free Fitz here, showing off something also slightly different than in the vanilla game. If you'll know that during the Mughal defense scene, where in the beginning of the game, Terra sort of is being chased by Kefka's goons and falls down the mine shaft, and then the Mughals come help, you have to fight Marshall and a couple of Lobos. Well, we at Worlds Collide decided the Lobos are too easy. So we randomized the couple of minions that come along with Marshall, and in this seed they happen to be tap dancers, which can be dangerous because they throw things at you and can confuse your characters. And when you have a build that's set to destroy bosses, getting confused, as thank God Setzer only casts Dispel instead of use those fixed dice offering when confused, This could have been a very disastrous fight here, Gar.
Oh, 100%. Tap dancers are very, very rude enemies. And the thing is that with the marshals' new buddies, they, typically speaking, aren't that much better. Because in addition to the tap dancers, you can get things like the retainers, which cast an instant death thing on you once they die. A couple of other rude fights. I believe that you can get 2 outsiders.
You can get ogres that cast zombie. I don't think you
can
get...
The ogres are bad?
Yeah, I think you can get 2 ninjas, but I don't think they're outsiders. They're lesser ninjas.
Oh, there might be, is it the covert enemies?
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what that
is. So anyway, yeah, Marshall can be rude. He does like to open up the fight with that net ability, which sets stop on a character. That's very annoying. And once you kill his goons, he can start casting Charge. Charge, especially in later parts of the seed, can one-shot your characters, so
yeah,
gotta be careful.
It's an 8 times physical damage attack, which is twice as tough as cat scratches. It's basically like a Havoc Wing to the face, which is Kefka's physical attack, basically.
100%. So, what Fitz did was he killed the Marshal. He got his 8th Esper and then decided to warp out, banking on there not being his 9th Esper at Magitech number 3. So he is in the world of Ruin. He's going to climb Narsh, it looks like. And I like this play. There is a dragon up here, the Ice Dragon in the vanilla game. Could be something different here. And the Tritox spot, which again will probably be different here. But the Tritox spot is interesting because it can only reward an Esper or an item. So Fitz could be on the verge of the unlock right here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I actually agree with that play by Fitz here, because the minecart ride plus the 3 forced encounters, 1 and 2 bosses before you get another reward is just, it's really not worth it. It's a lot of work in order to get that reward, and we have so many other things open to him, perhaps some peekable checks still on the table. He knows that Tritok can only reward an Esper or an item, so I like this play here. Meanwhile, Glue petting the dog, validating his run here, and
you love to see it.
I didn't see exactly what the reward was. You can go down and talk to the little girl, and she'll tell you exactly what the reward is, but it is a soldier. So I'm assuming that this is an Esper, because Glue probably would not have taken this check if it was just an item, but who knows? I missed it, so we're going to all find out on this ride together, huh?
We are all learning. However, he is by himself, so...
Oh, no. Well, at least he won't get blown away.
Fitz finding an Illumina from that dragon there, so
really
very
nice.
Good.
Meanwhile, very quickly, Physics Shebang is catching up in Esper count here, getting his 8th Esper rather from the Tizen Thief, buying it for 11,000 in the World of Balance. It's a different price in the World of Ruin, but 11,000 is pretty cheap because it can go from anywhere from 1 GP to 64k. I've seen it as low as 2 GP. I've never seen 1.
2 is the record.
I've never seen 1.
I don't think I've ever seen a single digit in any of the seeds that I've run. I have seen a couple that were like $20.
Yeah.
So you'll have to see that, but
9 was my cheapest I've ever gotten. And that's a one. It'll happen once and never again sort of thing.
Oh, 100%. And we're getting confirmation from the chat that Glue did not peak this check, so
Interesting.
going in completely blind. We'll see what he gets.
I mean, he needs both characters and espers, but this could also be an item. So we'll see what it is here. Ooh.
Ooh.
Double dead checks there. Fitz not getting his 9th Esper, instead getting a... what the heck did he get?
I totally missed it.
Oh, an Aura Lance, that's what it was. And Drinks Glue getting a Ice Shield. Not that an Ice Shield is terrible, you could still yeet it at somebody, but at this point in the seed, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want dead checks, we want to actually get in the tower now.
Yeah, that's not what we're looking to see here. So Fitz probably going to actually peek what this is.
He didn't either.
Oh no. Fitz!
Meanwhile, Questifer Warkin here showing us some new stuff. You buy the Rustrid for 1,000 GP from that sketchy guy. That sketchy guy will only sell you the Rustrid if you have Cyan. So
he's very trustworthy, so...
Hey, listen, if it's $1,000 for some WD-40, I better go to the Home Depot tomorrow. So there is a dragon here that he can optionally fight, and there is a reward at the very end of this particular check. So this is a pretty quick one, and it's up to 2 checks in one location, so it's a pretty popular one for runners.
Absolutely. So Physics Shebang finding Ultras 1 taken, so going to get his 9th Esper here, and we'll see what he does after that. He may not be comfortable with his level, so we may see him go and take on the Opera House Dragon. So yeah, it looks like he will be the first with our unlock criteria.
Yeah, because he's also saved Sid.
Yes, he did. He absolutely did.
He's the only one that saved Sid, and he also gets Siren as the first of the 2 Espers there. Unfortunately, he's well short of the 21 checks for Skip. If this was me, I would not bother going on to get the 21 checks. However, this is why I'm in the booth and not running the race. As it looks like he is either continuing through the Magitech factory or doesn't have any warp stones and doesn't realize how to get out of here. So there is a little chain that you could pull in the dumpster there that will bring you out of the dumpster. It's unfortunately not a Star Wars reference, unlike some of the other things in this game. from Mr. Ted Woolsey, the translator. But yeah, so that's a lot of checks to do for Skip. As Gar mentioned, it saves maybe 5 to 7 minutes of walking, depending upon what the boss is at the Inferno ambush spot. So doing, 9 checks is certainly not worth it, especially if Gogo is going to meteor your party to death.
Yeah, that's not ideal. And yeah, so it's possible that Physics Shebang doesn't know, and it is a long walkout if you don't have mute, because you've got to go up the chain, and then you're basically walking out of the entire the entire factory. So Fitz, unfortunately, a little bit desperate for...
That was Sabin at the bottom of Fnatic's tower. So if you go all the way up, go beat the boss, you can get Sabin, but since we already have 6 characters, we're not going to do that here. Question from Rexol in the chat, not in the game. How come I see most runners skip that secret chest before the vanilla number fight in the next room? It depends on how many chests you already have opened and if you're good with what you've got. For me personally, by the time I'm doing that check, I usually leave Magitech Factory until towards the end, because I know I can get my Espers there in a pinch if I really need to. So I usually tend to save it for the end, and by the time I am at near requirements, I don't need stuff in chests, right? However, if you choose it as one of your first checks, then it would make much more sense to go grab it. It's maybe 2 or 3 seconds out of the way, but if it's an important item, you don't want to pass it up. So one of the interesting things about Racing Worlds Collide is you have to find that balance between you know, saving time, and is this loot in this treasure chest going to help me? I usually think, what am I looking for? How would I make my party stronger? Obviously, the answer is always going to be like an Illumina or an Experience Egg, right? But that is just one or two of 255 items in the game. And depending upon the chest randomization, in this case, it's whatever was in vanilla plus a 20% chance of a random thing, right? So in this case, you're not going to find really, really good stuff in chests. Just like Fitz is still not finding good stuff at the end of checks here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. As much as we like Illuminas, at this point, you're really, really hunting for that last Esper. One of the things that I don't know is if Fitz wound up going to Zen to pick up the Esper there. I am not sure that he has.
He did.
He did. Okay.
Yeah, so taking a look at his tracker, he's got Ancient Castle, which, Engine Room, which we know is Cyan, so he's not going to go down there. He's got Leet River. He's got Zozo Tower, which is where he's going now based on the music that I'm listening to. He has Zone Eater, which we know is an Esper. Fanatics Tower, which he already peaked. And then the Opera House Disruption, which is a bit of a longer check because you have to scurry around the rats that are up in the top and then go through the boss fight there. So this play here is probably the shortest one he has, but you cannot peek what the reward is, which is kind of unfortunate there.
Yeah, a little bit. The bright side is that the Zozo theme, Slam Shuffle, is the best music in the game. I will not hear any arguments to the contrary.
Okay, fair enough.
What you got for me, Schwantz?
I mean, Dancing Mad is great and all.
Okay, minus Dancing Mad, but Dancing Mad
that's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Yep. No, this is a groovy one. I can get behind that. There's lots of great music in this game, and
100%.
So if you do join our Discord, which we have, there we have several different options that are not on our website, ff6worldscollide.com, where you could actually randomize music from other games in your Worlds Collide experience if you want to do that sort of thing. We tend not to do it for races because it actually alters the loading time of places, because it's literally taking the music out of the RAM and putting it directly in line. It's not like an MSU pack, which doesn't have that loading time restriction stuff. Anyway, we've gone too much into stuff that we're not bothering to talk about with the race. Christopher Walken here getting his 6th character, and there's a Moogle at the top of Zozo. More heartbreak for one free Fitz here. You hate to see it happen.
Yeah, that's a little unfortunate. You really wanted that to be a character. So I would still be tempted to check both of Mog's checks. So you can get the Lone Wolf, which is in the Narsh treasure house on the eastern edge of town.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do the Moogle Defense, which is the scenario at the beginning of the game where the Moogles come and help Locke and Terra escape Narsh.
All right, so Physics Shebang is still continuing on his quest towards Kefka Skip, although he just warped out before going to the Tritalk spot. So I'm not quite sure. He must be looking for levels here, as well as, you know, some power for himself.
Yeah. So he's got two level 39s and two 31s. In most cases, I would say that that's good enough to go into Kefka's tower, but a little extra power never hurt anybody, and it's possible that you wind up getting something great from this dragon. A Minerva, for example, would be a pretty phenomenal find. In addition to the extra levels, so...
Yeah, so an interesting thing about Worlds Collide is that even though the bosses are scaled, the only thing that is not scaled in a normal standard race, as we see Gao at the Moogle Defense, so that's yet another character, The only thing that is not scaled is the final Kefka battle. So it is the same as it is in the vanilla game, which is around level 70, those enemies usually are, give or take. So if you're about level 40 or so on your characters, that's a pretty comfortable Kefka fight. Mid-30s is a bit stretching it, and then stuff beyond that will take less and less time, obviously, as it goes on there. So that's why Physics Shebang, even though they unlocked Kefka before this, they are leveling their party up to withstand the final fight.
Yeah, it never hurts to be too safe. The final fight is very, very difficult, and it is very easy to, especially once you ascend the tiers, it is very easy to just die from a combination of things that are out of your control. So, yeah,
the final boss gauntlet is supposed to be difficult on purpose, and we know exactly how it's going to go because we know what the battle script is. However, if our runners did not pray enough hard to the RNGesus, some nasty things can happen during that fight. This is an RPG after all, and that's, you know, rando's gonna rando, as they say, which is what One Free Fits is finding out the hard way here.
Absolutely. But getting a lot of encounter skips here. Oh wow, that's really good. Just one encounter for the entire rafters. Phenomenal.
That's pretty good. Obviously, somebody put some cheese out and some traps in the far reaches of the rafters there to keep all those rats away.
So we'll see what the boss is. There are a number of rude bosses that have not reared their heads yet. Rexol, probably fine.
Yeah, so Setzer actually has sword tech, so One Free Fits would have benefited from Cyan. Drinks Glue has both Setzer and Cyan, so his Setzer is going to be way more powerful than Glue's is. Rather, Glue's is more powerful than Fitz's is. That's words. So anyway, Rexol, in the vanilla game, he possesses one of your characters, and you have to figure out which character it is by getting them into critical HP, or 1/8 of their max HP. Since this can be a huge problem in Kefka's Tower for the randomizer, if, say, your strong character and your meat shield are in Kefka's Tower and they get Rexol, that means you have to take out your strong character with your meat shield, and that would lead to lots of wipes, and we decided, you know what? We don't want to do all that. So we eliminated the zinger part of Rexol's script in order to make it more balanced. And I think this is Shadow. Yes, it is. Based on the music coming down to save the day here.
So this is interesting for Fitz, because now Fitz is at 8 characters. In order to get... Oh, no, it is... Well, it is still kind of interesting. Normally, we have a thing called the Ultros League, which is kind of our like racing league, and it's I would say it's a little bit more beginner friendly. So in those sets of flags, if you get 9 characters, you get the Kefka Tower skip. But here it is only 21 checks. So unfortunately, Fitz running into a string of things that are not exactly what he's looking for. But the bright side is that he is at 19 of 21, and he's Shadow offers a couple of pretty quick checks. You saw that is Gao's dad's house that he was just at, where he picked up a Ragnarok sword.
Yeah, unfortunately, another dead check.
Yeah. The glowing swords are nice, but I think Fitz has enough of them.
Meanwhile, we have our Magi Master here for Physics Shebang. From the chat, I'm gathering he's at the Atma spot, which is interesting because that is not a requirement. However, this will drop a high tier item in addition to it being a check, so that's why he is taking this on, and presumably to get some XP as well. He did have the Berserk spell, which is the counter to Magi Master, which is really nice for him to see. And you also saw that Magimaster does not cast Ultima upon death. That is a option that we've turned on in the randomizer, and that is because we are not guaranteed to have life 3 in the seed. So it would be radically unfair of us to allow Ultima to be cast and have a party just completely wipe, right? With no way past that. It's sort of a semi-soft lock at that point, right? So
yeah,
we decided that, you know, Magimaster does not cast Ultima upon death. Although, like I said, that is an option that you could turn on if you would like to choose it. And some of our community members, we host various different types of races in our Discord, and one of them is called a living seed, where essentially the runners that are running the seed pick the flags, and some sadistic person has picked that flag being turned off. So a few of us have had to contend with that. I subsequently countered with an objective to learn Auto Life 3 if you did some stuff, right? So it was interesting to see the pick of the Ultima and then the counter pick of, hey, well, you could actually earn Auto Life 3 for your whole team if you do some things. So I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty novel to get around that counter.
100%. So it looks like Fitz did find his last Esper, so gonna go in here. Gonna go fight, I guess it's the red dragon that Drinks Glue just demolished. And once he's done there, he will have the skip. He does still need to go and save Sid by feeding him the fish, but after that, Fitz will be able to use the skip, and our other runners will not. So you all are going to see just how powerful getting the skip is.
Yeah, so Drinks Glue, after saving Sid, is going to head into Kefka's Tower the normal way. So, do you want to talk a little bit about Kefka's Tower party composition here, Gar?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't get to finish your name. You know, just the vowels at the end just didn't happen.
it's French, you know. We just ignore half the letters, whatever.
That's anyway, right. Here in America, we just take letters out of words, like favorite and color, you know?
That's right. No more darn yous.
Anyway.
All right. So, Kefka's Tower. You need to split your party into 3, just like in the vanilla game. So, most of the time, your runners are going to be 2, 2, and 2. Your first and second parties, generally speaking, they will fight 1 boss apiece. Your third party will fight 3 bosses. So, our runners like to build their parties with that in mind. So, now there is a little bit of fudge factor. You'll see there is a part where your party, party 1 can go either left or right. Most people opt to take party 1 left, but if party 1 goes right, I think. Hang on.
Have you gone cross-eyed?
I have. Like, if I think about this too much, I just forget everything.
Kefka's Tower is muscle memory for us at this point. It's hard to explain, but give us the really controller and we'll do it. Yeah. So if you instead do what you're saying, one of your parties will fight 2 bosses, another party will also fight 2 bosses, and one of them will just fight a single boss. Which will be the Doom statue, I believe, will be the single boss in that case. But most of the time, what I like to do anyway is I like to have my party prepared for the worst possible boss, and I like to have at least 1 member in the party that can deal with something really bad. So a Magimaster, for instance, is usually really bad. So I like to have a party that has either defense ignoring or non-elemental damage, so I could deal with that. Or, let's say a Doom Gaze is also something that's really bad that will come up, right? So one thing I can do is prepare myself with the Pearl element or the Fire element, like things that it's weak to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Doom Gaze is one of those bosses that we have not seen yet. It is possible that it is in the tower. However, it can only be at either the Inferno spot or at the Guardian spot, because our statue spots are taken up by the statues themselves. So
that's right. It's part of the imaginary donation incentive that we would like to, add into our run submission. Make it harder on our runners. Make them forced to fight the 3 warring triad statues at shuffled locations, right? They won't exactly be at the statues, but we know they will be in Kefka's Tower, and we know that they're going to have to do it with a party of 2 or 1. So it's much harder of a challenge in this Kefka's Tower.
Yeah, the statues are very, very dangerous, especially towards the end. So we're going to see how our runners deal with each of them, and that's going to be a great thing to witness. So.
Yeah, so an interesting thing to note is that the bosses, their maximum scale is level 45. So our runners will probably be going up against level 40 or so, based on, what we've seen here with some of our runners. Their bosses in Kefka's Tower is going to be easier and harder, depending upon what their requirements are. Meanwhile, Physics Shebang getting past our 3 stooges there at the Inferno spot. Drinks Glue having a bit of trouble here, as the top stooge will actually revive with life 2 the other ones, and they will also stone your party after 3 turns if all 3 of them are together. So that is a reset for him there, Drinks Glue. And that's one of the things about Kefka's Tower. You split up your party, and all of a sudden, the crew that you've been rolling with all game, that has been sort of a good setup, now gets put to the test because they're divided amongst the 3 different lanes.
Right, and that's one of the biggest challenges. Doing a basically a very highly scaled boss with half your party, it's rough. And meanwhile, Fitz finally gets to save Sid there. Got a little unlucky with the fish.
Yeah.
But now is going into Kefka's Tower. Gonna be jumping ahead of Drinks Glue here. And Physics Shebang. Although Physics Shebang is a little bit closer.
Yeah, so this will show off the power of the Kefka Tower skip. Essentially, he gets to the 3 switches right before the boss gauntlet, which is slightly ahead of where Physics Shebang is, even though he got into Kefka's Tower 3rd amongst all of our runners. So that is why the skip is pretty powerful, and hence why we put it at 21 checks. In this case, Fitz got very unlucky with his routing. So yeah, you could say, well, it rewards poor routing, but it also rewards, playing more and more of the game. The Guardian spot is actually another Kefka Tower boss, so all of the bosses in Kefka's Tower are coming out to play tonight.
And this one's a rude one, too, to find this late. So Atma, normally you find him in the jail cells. Your second party can choose to fight this one. You find him near a toilet, so he is affectionately called Toilet Atma.
Yep. The Kohler.
He is the cooler Atma.
No, I said Kohler, like the toilet brand, but sure. We'll go with that. Oh, man.
Oh, geez. Okay, so this guy's pretty rude. He absorbs every element that isn't fire, ice, or lightning. So you see these Illumina.
The uncommon ones.
Yes. Illumina being so common in this seed, it is possible that Illumina can proc the Pearl spell, and Pearl will heal Atma. So, gonna find a different way around that. Looks like Physics Shebang is opting to cast Fire 2. Fortunately, Atma's magic defense is pretty low, so you'll wind up doing a bunch of damage, and there's a Grand Train.
Oh no.
Choo-choo.
So, Atma's actually weak to the other 3 elements, so that's why the magic does pretty high damage. It's one of those interesting bosses where if you've got good elemental damage, it's not so bad. But if you don't, then you're in for a real problem. Meanwhile, we did see one free Fitz take care of one of the 3 statues, Doom, at his vanilla location. So Doom can be a bit of a problem because of the second phase where he gets the reflect status and the image status, which basically means you can't cast spells on him and you can't hit him with physical attacks.
Good rolls coming out here for Fitz. Not quite enough for the one shot, but that's
pretty
big
good.
Illumina swing coming out from Edgar.
Did anyone order spicy wings or hot wings? It is Poltergeist at his vanilla spot, so the statues were supposed to be shuffled, but they got shuffled into their normal spots here. So.
Is this even randomized?
Yeah, that'll happen. And in the randomizer, you could also say that don't shuffle the bosses at all. That's an option you could totally do.
Absolutely. You can keep them vanilla. There's also an option to shuffle in the statue bosses amongst all of the regular bosses, so you can find them anywhere.
Or, even worse, bosses can be random instead of shuffled, which means they can repeat. So you can fight more than one Poltergeist in your seed, which can be atrocious. So, yeah, fun times.
Absolutely. One free Fitz pulling out all the stops on Poltergeist here.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Get out.
I'm sorry. Poltergeist weak to the stop spell. Unfortunately, because Poltergeist has auto haste, stop status will not last all that long. So you see Fitz doing what's called weight tricking, which is while your party has animations going, so while Setzer's throwing those dice, for example, if another character goes into the menu, no ATB will actually increment, including the bosses. So done properly, it saves you a lot of damage over the long run. So good job to Fitz for showing out the tricks there.
More importantly for this flag set is that little timer above your head. It also doesn't go down when you're in the menu. Physics Shebang is getting awfully close to being very dangerous here with a 7-second timer over Strago's head. He grabs Go-Go back up, and when you get revived in the auto-condemned state, you don't get condemned again, which is great because now he can go back into this menu here and pause that little timer. So this is this trick or this skill that runners have in action here. This is going to be close. If this does not kill Poltergeist, we are going to see a death, and that is going to be a reset for Physics Shebang. Let's see, can he do it? No, unfortunately he does not. And we got a sleeping Strago instead. Wah, 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 wah.
So yeah, unfortunately, Physics Shebang gonna have to take the reset here. Drinks Glue pulling out the Carbuncle strats here, hoping to reflect the stop cast. But of course, it's random as to whether it'll come out. So unfortunately, it does not come out, at least not yet. So and Fitz dealing with the last of the statues, the Goddess.
Yeah, so Goddess has very high magic defense, and if attacked with a physical attack, may counter with a spell called Love Token, which essentially allows Goddess to dictate that one of your characters must take the damage for any incoming physical attacks. So it essentially nullifies any fight commands for the rest of the fight.
Yep, there are a couple of ways around it. So, for example, you can set the stop status on the character with Love Token, and that character will not block the physical attacks.
I did not know that. See, this is the great thing about this game. You learn something new every single time. Look at that.
Yep.
Spitting facts over here, Gar.
And there's a couple of other things that get around it, too. So, if Fitz had a jumping character, for example, Jump would also get around it.
Drinks Glue, meanwhile, 167 HP and a dream there with the countdown timer at 3 seconds takes out the Poltergeist. However, one free Fitz has got all 3 statues down and is stepping on the switches for Final Kefka. He's our first batter up here to the plate. Let's talk about the Final Kefka fight here. you basically get to pick your party, and in the party selection screen, whoever you pick fourth is actually going to go first on turns for the second, third, and fourth tier of Kefka. And anybody that comes after your fourth character will be a substitute in battle if one of your characters is dead as that particular tier ends. Normally in the vanilla game, this is a good thing. This means that you can substitute somebody off the bench and you can keep going. In Worlds Collide, however, we've been messing with the same 4 characters basically through the whole seed. So losing a character in this fight is particularly devastating. Losing more than one is going to be cause for contemplation of a reset here. Thankfully, we have Shadow with Throw, who came into our party late, so he's a pretty good 5th substitute. But let's talk about Tier 1 here, Gar. What do we got?
Okay, Tier 1. We have 3 parts to the Tier 1. We have the head, which looks like a head. We have the long arm, which is the arm that you can see the entirety of. And we have the short arm, that's his opposite arm, the one that's curled up into a fist. The long arm is vulnerable to instant death, in addition to any kind of petrify effects. So you'll see Fitz casting X Zone, gets that arm wrapped in the zone, and down it goes. So the head and the arm, they don't do a whole lot. The trick is, if you kill the head last, it will counter with Quake. And Quake will do about 2,500 damage to your entire party. So it's really bad. So fortunately, you can avoid it by just killing the head first, and then killing the short arm. The short arm likes to do counterattacks, and it is very, very punchy. It does a lot of damage.
Thank you, Phil Swift, for that. And yes, it is a lot of damage. This tier does mostly physical attacks. There's 1 or 2 things it'll do that count as spells, but mostly it's physical attacks, and they are very good physical attacks. This is sort of the armor check of the final boss. If you don't have great armor for that part, one of your characters is going to end up flat on their face, and it's not going to be good, because as I mentioned, you don't want to lose them from tier transitions. So we're coming up on Tier 2. We already sort of talked about one of the parts of it. You want to talk us through the rest of the parts of Tier 2?
Yeah, sure. Okay, Tier 2 has 4 parts. There's Hit, which is that buff blue fella sitting on top of Tiger, which is the second part, and it is just a tiger head. We have Tools, which is like that lady in red with the machine-looking stuff next to her. And finally, we have Magic, which is that blonde fellow sitting opposite everybody, and is in general, a nuisance. So, lots of things that have to happen here. So you see Siren coming out. Siren sets mute on the entire enemy party. Magic is vulnerable to mute, so Magic is no longer a consideration for the rest of this fight. The Tools portion is vulnerable to instant death, but is not vulnerable to petrify. So any like Doom and X Zone will work, but Break and the Shoat Summon will not. So let's see what else. Tiger is vulnerable to ice and is in general the first one that we want to kill because it can start doing some very, very dangerous things later on, like turn your party into zombies. Zombie is
your party.
He will freeze your party. He does a lot of fire damage to your party. All kinds of just nasty stuff.
Yep, so that's Tiger dead, and that was Tool's instant death. So now we're just down to a 2v4. And it looks like Fitz is going to kill Magic first, even though Magic is not able to do anything. Hit is the blue guy's name, and he does physical attacks. However, his death counter is 10 straight physical attacks without you able to take a turn. So you want to make sure that you have more health than Fitz does right now. Otherwise, you're in danger of getting knocked over and dying. So I think we're going to see a health spell come out here. There you go. Yep, but generally, the order of operations is kill Tiger, mute Magic, instant death Tools, and then take on hit lasts. So that's why you see, you know, our runners are kind of being a little methodical here with how they handle things, because this is a speed run. You know, most speed runs want to get by with the bare minimum in order to do the job, and normally you're much higher levels when you get to this fight, but we're only at about 40, low 40s here for most of our runners, so that's why they have to do things in a certain order. And tier 3 is probably one of the more difficult parts of the fight for runners to do. So what do we have to do here?
All right, so tier 3 has 2 parts. There is Girl, which is the floating lady head behind Rest, which is the guy who's just kind of relaxing. Girl has 9,999 HP, and she will cast Pearl Wind to heal both herself and Rest for the amount of HP that she currently has. Furthermore, she absorbs all of the elements.
By the way, I just want to interject. Glue, knowing that he may proc a counterattack from the face because of his fixed dice and offering, decided to cast Float on his party to avoid that Quake counter. So, nice heads-up play from him there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now...
Train.
Yeah, so now Rest is in the phase of his life where he's under 10,000 HP, casting Train and Meteor. Train will blind and mute the whole party. We did fix the blind bug in Worlds Collide, so Evade actually works, and being blind actually means you'll miss your attacks every once in a while. And he will death counter with Calmness once or twice, and that's why Fitz used Golem to protect himself against that instant death physical attack. So nice job from Fitz taking that one out there. Tier 3 rather can go by very quickly, but it also has the chance to go sideways very quickly as well.
It is very easy for tier 3 to go sideways. If you've ever seen Whirlwind into Meteor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But fortunately, Fitz gets through no issues, and now we're at the big man himself, Final Kefka. Vish wants... Tell me what we're working with here.
So Final Kefka, 60k HP in total. He will cast Fallen 1 on his first turn, which basically lowers your party to 1 HP. And if he gets under 30,000 HP, he will start countering with things like Hyperdrive and Havoc Wing, which are the strongest single target attacks for both physical and magical in the game. He will also charge up this ability here called Goner, which basically means he'll take a turn and do nothing. So it's nice during this phase to attack Kefka, because he will not counter. He also can counter with Ultima if under 10,000 HP, but I don't think we're going to get there here, as Fitz is just dishing out the damage now, and time is on the first flash of Kefka, so we should see that shortly.
Yeah, I think he's dead right here. So GG's to one free Fitz.
Boom!
Going to be our winner. Going to be our winner for tonight's Randomania submission, and we get to see a cool effect here, getting to put Kefka in jail, punishing him for his crimes.
There you go. So yeah, the game doesn't know what to do with the condemned status, because you're never supposed to have it at this point. So it's interesting when we do get it that we get this weird, glitchy Final Kefka scene. So also usually as part of our racing process, we'll interview the runners after they finish their race. So we'll see if One Free Fitz wants to talk about some of his decision making. He could probably complain about not finding that 9th Esper for a while, so we'll see if he wants to get in here for an interview. Meanwhile, we still have 2 racers that are basically neck and neck on tier 2 here with Drinks Glue and Physics Shebang. And we'll see which one of them has what it takes here, as I believe that is Magic Dead for Physics Shebang, as Drinks Glue is just popping off with these fixed dice here. One Free Fitz did a great job getting around the fact that he had both the blind and the mute status on his party. Fixed dice will never miss, neither will an Illumina, so that was nice for him to have there to basically counter the blind status for him. And he did not need to use any magical spells on Kefka, so that was pretty easy. Normally we see a lot of breaking rods, breaking shields, things like that after train on tier 3 into tier 4.
Very nice by Physics Shebang there. His go-go was, his condemn timer was at 0.
Oof.
But able to push on through the tiers. So Glue, a little bit of a lead here, but not by much. 45 seconds or so. And again, this is one of those moments where anything can happen. If Physics Shebang has a good tier 3 and Drinks Glue does not, we could be looking at a rollover here.
Yeah, particularly because Drinks Glue has been doing a lot of damage with these fixed dice, and thankfully it did target the right target first with Girl, because Girl will basically revive the bottom part and heal the bottom part. So thankfully he's dead, and it looks like he almost one-shot the entirety of this tier, but Sleep is still around here.
That's the power of Cat Scratch. And hey, we're joined by One Free Fits. Congratulations, GG on your first place victory.
Thank you very much. I was honestly surprised because I was feeling behind at certain points.
Yeah. Tell me about that Esper hunt.
Well, I couldn't find them. I was peeking all of my peaks, right? And I was just going like, where can I peek? Where can I peek? Where can I peek? And it was just character after character. I would be curious to see if I would have just taken one of those earlier, would have led me into my one Esper that I was looking for a long time. Who knows? But I was just glad to find it eventually.
Yeah, I think you found like most of the roster, but never picked them up, right? We had Realm and Yeti Cave. We had we had Gao. We had Sabin. So, but yeah. So after you finally got your Esper count, it did allow you to get the Kefka Tower skip, which catapulted you ahead of both Drinks Glue and Physics Shebang here in this race. So was the skip something that you usually go for from the start, or did you happen to luck into it with your bad luck of not finding an Esper here?
I feel like at one point I was at like 5 characters and 8 Espers where I had like 13 checks. Like I was like, oh, I'm not getting skipped. That's not happening. So I was actually planning.
So sorry to cut you off here. Remember when I said Kefka will counter with Ultima when you're under 10,000 HP? So Glue, one shot from Cyan did upwards of 50,000 damage, maybe closer to 55 in that one turn, and this will do it for him.
This will kill him, yeah. So GG, but that was a very scary Ultima.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Fitz.
So yeah, I wasn't really planning for it. Because I had 2 eggs for a long time, wasn't worried about levels. All of my dead checks did just give me big shiny swords to use, and a lot of my Esters were speed boosting, so I had a really fast, and then I hasted. So I had a really fast party in the final Kefka fight. It was fun inputting so frequently, just being like, hit, wait, count, hit. I was kind of getting ahead of myself, and I got real loose on tier 4 because I saw that no one had finished yet, and I was like, all right, we gotta risk it.
Just let her rip. Rip it and rip it, baby. So both Drinks Glue and Physics Shebang finished within about 40 seconds of one another. 136.26, 137.09. So get your GGs for them, as we are also joined by Drinks Glue in the chat. Welcome. Congratulations on your second place finish here.
Good evening, people.
Yo, yo.
Hey.
Hello.
So, most important question that I've got for you, Drinks Glue, is tell me about that dog you got in you.
Well, that dog, it was in Cyan tonight. Once I saw he had Rage and I had already fought Stray Cat, you know, this community really gets down on Cyan unnecessarily sometimes. So I thought, you know what, tonight Cyan will be showcased. He will be utilized. and in front of the millions of people watching, Cyan will get his flowers, as the kids say.
I think that was a direct shot at Ugar for
I talk so much smack about Cyan. It's unreal.
Oh, can't spell Cyan without Sia.
Now I did notice that you went into Miranda like towards the start of the seed, so
of course.
Congratulations on being the actual victor tonight. Sorry,
and petting the dog too.
And you pet the dog, yeah.
So. And I robbed the crazy old man of the world of balance. I wanted to showcase a few things people typically don't do. So I also took a fight with the Magitech armor on in Cyan's stream. Cool. So
thank you for allowing us to showcase the randomizer in a showcase submission video. I really appreciate it. Physics Shebang also coming in to the booth. Congratulations on your finish. Also a well-run race there. You, I think you were the one that unlocked Kefka first, but you had to claw back some levels there on your characters, huh? I don't know if your mic is not plugged in or you can't hear me, but we certainly can't hear you. So.
I will point out that Physics Shebang mentee demonstrating the program in action.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, so the mentee has not yet become the mentor, but give it a few more playthroughs and you know, a race that's decided by what is it, 5 minutes? Not even 5.5 minutes is really close. That's basically half of the final battle, right? So great race overall.
Like somebody goes and does the wrong check, right?
Yep.
Like that's just,
or in Fitz's case, very, very the wrong 5 checks. Yeah, so I must admit it is my fault. I told Physics Shebang to not only turn off his mic, I also told him to disable his ads on his stream too. So I flustered him. I screwed him up. This is all #blame Schwantz. My fault. Are you there? No.
I blame everything on Schwantz.
There you go.
The whole seed. Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot that I have push to talk.
Not a problem. I don't know if you heard the question or not, but basically, I think you were the first in Kefka's tower, but you decided, hey, my levels are, or rather, you're the first Kefka unlock, but you decided my levels are not good enough. I'm going to continue fighting some stuff. Is that usually, you know, where do you feel comfortable around getting into Kefka's tower?
I'm not sure how everybody else fared, but this seed had some of the worst offense I've seen in a while, at least in the beginning. So in a seed like this, I definitely wouldn't want to be less than maybe 36, 37, but I had some characters at 32. So I went and fought some dragons to catch my levels up before going ahead and getting in there, which worked really well if you saw how those Illumina strats were working.
Well, speaking of Illuminas, our other 2 runners here found them juicily in the Coliseum for some low-level...
Or Magicite and Asha.
Oh, come on.
Yep.
I had to get mine the hard way with dead checks.
Yes.
Well, the dragon was, I think it was giving Glue a little bit of a hard time at the start.
The enemy, the Chaos Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, the Chaos Dragon, because he's weak to ice, but you know, you didn't have anything, so...
the Chaos Dragon ensued chaos, right? That's why we call it that.
Yeah, I tried to get the Illumina early, and my characters would not cooperate, so I just kept getting killed by that dragon, so I had to come back later. I got a couple more, and just kind of swung those around the rest of the seed. Also, let my nerves get to me bad. I don't know if you saw, but I accidentally memed the guy in front of the Relic shop in South Figaro and got the cool cutscene about relics. That was super rad. I loved that.
Listen, you are not officially a Worlds Collide runner unless you talk to Relic Guy. That is much like throwing a heal rod at yourself. And
it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, and accidentally flying into Doomgaze after you don't save in a while. That is, you got to do it unless you're not there. So we had a couple of different builds on screen at the same time, which I think showcases why I really love watching races of Worlds collide. Is there's not one way to, you know, crack the seed, if you will. I know Fitz, you were using some fixed dice and some Illuminas. Gar was using, not Gar, Drinks Glue was using the Stray Cat Rage. You know, Physics Shebang, you were using Go-Go with Mimic a lot. So, Fitz, tell us a little bit about your offensive strategy in this seed, I guess.
Well, my original plan was like, all right, I'm going to do the opera. I planned that from the beginning. So I was like, that takes like 4 minutes. So I'm going to cut my looting real short and try to be getting my grind on, going to a check at the 10-minute mark. And I was like a little bit behind schedule, but then the first fight, Magic Hearn, I was like, cool, well, that's useless to me. So I had to run from that. And then probably my biggest time waste was I should have cracked the shield when I had like a Luridin encounter. But I was being greedy about my shields. And that fight took forever. I was relying on Strago Tempest procs, which were not happening.
No.
And then, like, my first grind fight, he was the only one that lives. So I was like, all right, I can't go to Burning House with just Strago procking Tempest. So I was trying to get, like, something else going on. And but then I saw the offering that was in Tomasa Relic Shop. And I had dice, because that's what I got from Opera. So I was like, all right, no one can equip this. That's a bummer. But as soon as I get someone that can, I could pretty much just go. So that was kind of my approach to the seed, was rely on dice, hope I would get other stuff that might be faster. I eventually did.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
then there were no good spells for me on Espers. Like, I had no level 3 magic. I had Pearl, but I had better stuff, so...
Yeah, unfortunately
that was
for you were not able to find Cyan, which allowed Setzer to basically get his sword tech upgrade, which was what Glue was doing with his Setzer as soon as he found it. You guys sort of diverged there for a while, because you had different sets of characters for a bit. And then Glue, obviously showing off Stray Cat, was really nice as well.
Yeah. Stray Cat, like I said, very, very powerful. So, Glue, like, personally, I really like Stray Cat. I lean super hard into it. Are you the same way anytime that you get access to Cat Scratch?
Well, part of it was for fun, but part of it too is you can Stray Cat your way through Final Kefka with fixed dice, but you kind of don't want your other characters to act. You can literally sit back at level 40 and watch your Stray Cat fixed dice offering, or even quad off.
Almost
eight,
one-shot
8
tier
dice
3.
throws, yeah. And then almost one-shot Kefka, and then almost one-shot my team. But when you do that, if you take it, Rage, you lose control of your character, so you almost want to babysit that character on Final Kefka. I could have probably sneaked a few attacks in very safely, but I wasn't super worried about it. I just wanted to do it because it was cool.
And then Physics Shebang, like at the start of the seed, I think your first check was actually Kefka and Narsh. Tell me about your thought process there. What led you to climb the cliffs that early?
Bad decision-making skills.
No, what you're supposed to say is, this is a play I didn't think the other runners would make, so I made it.
That's kind of what I was going for. It's the same reason why I did Leet River pretty early. Was like, no one else is going to do this. Maybe it'll pay off. But I went up there and I was like, oh, wait, there's only 2 characters that I can use on this. And then I ran into a group of like 5 enemies and all I had was auto attack. And I'm like, yep, this was a terrible idea. And then I left.
Yep. Yeah, that put you, I think, a little bit behind the 8 ball. But once you started to get rolling, you did checks at a very fast pace. I think you were definitely behind by a couple of espers, and then all of a sudden, it was like, bam, you're doing to Zen Thief, you're doing the Search the Skies, and all of a sudden you have your requirements there, right? So it was interesting how that sort of played out.
Yeah, I felt pretty behind from the early game because there was no real clear offense in the beginning. You had those fixed dice, you couldn't use them. No magic, really, just some level 2 and some shields after you grinded a bit, but a lot of the grind fights were horrible, including in Burning House with soldiers that give no experience. So the beginning was really, really rough, and it got me a little frazzled, but once I got some level 2 spells, I got those dice online, and especially when I got the first Illumina, I felt a lot more comfortable with the seed.
All right, well, since this is a, randomizer submission showcase for Randothon, I know that some of you guys in the booth here have done marathon races before, and some have not. We'll start with one free fits. I know you've done a few marathons in your time. What to you is something that you feel is one of the most fun or interesting things about the Worlds Collide randomizer, and the reason why you keep coming back to play it amongst the other randomizers that I know you play?
Yeah, it's really just like, I really like this game as a kid. That's part of it. And the randomizer keeps it feeling fresh, and it's given me the opportunity to participate in these marathons, which has been a blast every single time. So it's like both really fun, and we've got a great community that hopefully I get to meet in person more. In the future, I actually got to meet Gar. That was pretty fun.
Heck yeah.
And so it's just it's a good time. Occasionally I win a race. I've lost way more races than I've ever won. So it's not really about that. It's more of just like, getting better over time and just having a good time.
Awesome. So, Drinks Glue, I'll ask the same question basically. Worlds Collide, why do you like playing this game, and what do you think it offers you in terms of joy? How does this spark joy to get all Marie Kondo on you?
First off, I want to say Gar offered to meet me, but it was at Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. So
you're not supposed to tell him that.
I'm a little upset he followed through on Fitz, but we'll talk about that in private. My favorite thing about Final Fantasy VI is that, especially Worlds Collide, is that I used to play the vanilla Final Fantasy VI, and every time I would go through, I would do something a little different. Like I would play as Gal and mess around with rages, or I would, explore the blitzes and not just spam Ultima every time. Some of the other mainline Final Fantasies, you can't really do that. You get your character. This is what they do really, really well. And that's the only thing they do really, really well. So you're kind of shoehorned into just doing that. But especially in Worlds Collide, you can mix all those cool things all the different characters can do. And really no two seeds look alike. As you saw tonight, there were Illuminas and fixed dice out the wazoo, and I came across Stray Cat with a Cyan with Rage, and that's probably only the second time in maybe 150-ish seeds that I've ever utilized fixed dice and Stray Cat. So you get that type of variety and that type of creativity, so you can almost feel like you're an artist painting on your canvas, or in this case, Kefka's face. All the different things you can do.
He does have some clown makeup on after all, right?
Yeah.
So might as well mess it up a little bit there. And then Physics Shebang, same question for you. What is your favorite aspects about Worlds Collide? Why do you enjoy, playing this game amongst the other different things that you do on your stream?
Yeah, well, similar to Drinks Glue, I spent a lot of my childhood playing this game, but a lot of my alternate playing were a lot more arbitrary. I once challenged myself to buy 99 of every item from every shop, which was pointless, but I did it.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I still have the award. Yeah, I have the certificate on the wall. I made it myself. But no, in general, just like Glue said, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add, but the variation in builds that you can get, no seeds are ever the same. And really, it's just a great way to use my brain all the time. It really requires a lot of thought, and it's like a big puzzle, which I really appreciate. It's like a big puzzle combined with one of my favorite games ever. So, what isn't there to like?
Very nice. Hopefully that's not, the Billy Mitchell plaque that you've got there, and you could actually reproduce it sometime on stream.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe I will. We'll see.
There we go. Gar, we got any other final questions for some of our runners here?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you very, very much for agreeing to be on the stream. The race does not happen without racers, and thanks Fitz, thanks Blue, and thanks Physics Shebang for putting on a great show for us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Amazing job, everyone.
Yeah, can't have the races without the runners, so thank you guys for volunteering to be broadcast all over the world to the millions and millions of people watching at home. Really appreciate that as well. And
one day.
Yep. There you go.
No, thanks for having me. This was actually my very first restream and very first 4-way race, so, you know, it's really cool to be a part of the community and be able to participate in things like this, so thanks for offering it up.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
All right, so we are going to check back in on with our one other runner who is still racing here. Christopher Warkin is getting up to tier 3 of Kefka now. So he unfortunately lost one of his characters along the way during tier 1, and Celeste is basically the meat shield holdover. I think slot? Yeah, so Celeste is slot, but with the...
She does have an Illumina.
Yeah, we had so many of them laying around that you might as well, right?
Might as well.
I think one of our characters also had capture, so it's possible to steal like a big beefy sword off of one of the parts here. Yeah, that's Edgar with capture.
And I don't remember. I think it's a Ragnarok sword that Rest has. And Girl, I think, has an Atma weapon. That might be backwards, but...
Yeah, I don't know which is which, but that's good enough for me.
Yep, exactly. But bringing out the Golem summon there, that is going to block the Calmness. So as long as Rest cooperates as far as his Meteo usage goes, Christopher should get through this no problem. But there's the Meteo. Gonna hope for a miss here. It is kind of inaccurate.
Oh. Yeah,
Ooh.
So this is what you don't want to have happen, is now there isn't really a way to get those characters back up of their turn, especially if another Meteo comes out. Very unlucky. That spell is extremely inaccurate. And somehow the boss is still not dead. So... might as well jump Van Halen. Let's just do it.
Yep. Looks like we're gonna be riding with the solo Edgar here. It is certainly possible to do.
Yeah, so the more characters you lose along the way, the more and more difficult this battle becomes, right? Because unlike in the vanilla game where you have a stable of characters that's all relatively the same level, because you can't use certain characters at certain points throughout the game, right? There's like the 3 scenarios, and then there's parts where you don't get access to certain characters to level them up. It's basically your starting 4 against the corpse of Cyan and Edgar here.
Yeah, and Edgar, that 45-second timer, and it's counting down as Kefka descends, so he is up against the clock here, so gonna have to pick up Cyan, I think, if he wants this to work, and looks like he recognizes that.
Yep. So he's not going to be able to be like Drinks Glue and pump out more than 30,000 damage in one turn, so we are going to get the Fallen 1 here. And now he has to do at least some damage to get him out of the Fallen 1 stat, or state, I should say, in order to progress this fight further. Otherwise, Kefka's just going to do Fallen 1 over and over again and counter with physical attacks like that. So this is an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, and I forget the exact loop because there's like a Fire 3 that's involved. This train doesn't really matter. I don't think that
No.
Edgar has any relevant magic, and jump will always hit, so...
Correct. The nice thing about having a character with jump is that, you know, crazy anime-looking spell Goner, he'll be able to dodge it, but Kefka is just not having any of Cyan. It seems like the AI knows, you know? I know that there are video games that cheat Like, I know that Mortal Kombat will cheat on purpose to get harder and harder, you know, sort of thing. After you beat 3 characters, it's, you know, to force you to stick more quarters in the machine. But Final Fantasy VI is definitely sentient too. I mean, look at this. You can't really tell me that 4 times in a row it's been Cyan.
Yeah, and this is rough too, because you can't have Cyan rage anything here. Yeah, Edgar needs to go up, but this is just going to kill Cyan probably.
Yeah, because alright.
Oh, okay.
Good that Kefka is still
good.
stuck in the Fallen 1 loop. So that's not going to be a death. Edgar's finna die here because he's got 1 second. So let's bring him back. And let's start this all over again. Now, we don't have the danger of dying to Condemned, but when you get revived, you only get revived at 1/8 of your total HP. So down he goes again. And now Edgar will be the flavor of the week for Kefka here.
So at this point, we need to hope for like a clutch block or anything. But Kefka at this point is going to cast Train, and then his next thing I think is going to be a level 3 spell of some variety. So either Fire, Ice, or Bolt 3.
Yeah, and the problem with getting muted is you cannot use lures. So Blowfish, unfortunately, you saw there and absolutely nothing happened.
Ooh.
And now Cyan is raging, and
I think this is it. And there's the reset. That's unfortunate.
Yep, so Final Kefka is never a given, even with runners that have all of the tools. It is still one of the more difficult parts of the game. It is the only part of Worlds Collide that is unscaled. Obviously, you could change that option. One of the reasons why we don't scale the final Kefka battle is because, as you see by the various different things that our runners did throughout the seed, not everybody took the same path. So not everybody fighting the same final battle feels kind of cheap to me. I don't know if you feel that same way too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. One of the flags that you can set for Worlds Collide is something called Normalize and Distort. And yeah, a lot of people are kind of shuddering in terror there. There's a lot that goes into it. The short version is that a lot of enemies become a lot more dangerous. Tier 3 has Meteos that can hit for upwards of 3,500 damage. And like it is supremely unpleasant.
Yes. So that is one of the only flags that will mess around with. Doesn't mess around with boss scripts per se, but it will either augment or diminish stats of certain bosses. And in Final Fantasy VI, a lot of bosses don't have very good stats. They would be super duper difficult if they did. So that's why sometimes with the normalize and distort stats option, you get these ridiculously either tanky bosses in terms of health, or very powerful, dealing a lot of damage bosses in terms of magical spell power.
There was a question in the chat saying, hypothetically, if Edgar was equipped with the Valiant Knife and Jump, would the damage be ridiculous? And the answer is not quite as much as you would think. And that's just because of how the Valiant Knife damage formula works. Where basically the knife does some flat amount of damage. That damage gets multiplied by jump, so it does an extra 1.5 times. And then the special damage portion of the Valiant Knife applies, where it gets it does an extra point of damage for every HP that you are missing.
Yep.
And jump does not apply to that.
Right. So then depending upon, in this case, Christopher Warkin has the Dragon Horn, which allows you to jump 2 to 4 times on a random target after the first, right? And since there's only one target in the fourth tier of Kefka, it's all the same target at that point. But the Valiant Knife's battle power isn't actually all that high. I believe it's in the 140s or 50s or 70s, something around that range,
it's not,
out of 255.
It is not impressive.
And I don't know what Edgar's max HP is, but it depends on what his max HP is. Obviously, the more hit points you're away from your max, the higher the damage will be. So it might be the case that the Aura Lance, which I believe is what he's using now, will actually do way more damage than a jumping Valiant Knife in most scenarios. The opposite is the Atma weapon, which is what Terra is doing. It's kind of the opposite. It's not exactly, though. You could think of it as an opposite, and I won't blame you for it. But the Atma weapon does more damage. The Atma weapon's damage will get reduced the lower and lower your HP is. So you don't actually get harder attacks with higher HP. It's purely a negative thing, right? So it has 255 battle power, and it will do max damage at max HP, and then it gets less and less and less as you go down the line there.
Yeah, exactly.
Math.
It's a lot of math. There's a lot of things in this game that have like some really weird interactions. Things that you don't necessarily expect, which I kind of like about the game. Like there's a certain charm in knowing that this, like, the vanilla game was held together with, you know, duct tape and a dream.
And some interesting translation.
Thank you, Ted Woolsey.
So yeah, interestingly enough, we did see some of our other runners that did go into the Magitech factory. Remember, they had access to Siren, which allowed us to mute magic. Christopher Warken did not go into the Magitech factory, so this is what happens when you have one of the parts of Kefka's Tier 2 that is allowed to actually act, is that the fight becomes that much more not only difficult, but time-consuming. Because every time magic goes, he takes up some amount of animation time with his magical casts. So this imp takes up time, then it takes time to actually unimp your character so they can actually do damage. It's just a slog of a mess here.
Yeah, like I said before, just supremely annoying. You want to take care of him as quickly as possible. I know a lot of runners, I think myself included, if you don't have mute, you basically make magic the #1 priority. Ooh, and there goes all the condemned timers. So
yep. So this
hopefully
is one of the funny interactions of Worlds Collide, is that if you have jump, you could actually die on the condemned timer in the air, but you will finish your attack. You will just succumb to the wound status after you actually finish your turn. So Edgar kind of just plopped his dead body around on a couple of characters there as he came down from his jump attack. And unfortunately, getting revived does not clear your imp status either. That is a status that lasts in between battles. So it's not a in-battle status, it's a omnipresent status, I guess would be the right word.
I think so.
But yeah, so lots of recovery here for Christopher Warken. Thankfully, he got off some nice, timely Life 3 spells to save Strago and Setzer. Not as lucky with our other characters, though. But all of a sudden, we're back, baby. And it's now a 2v4 instead of a 4v4. So,
yeah,
a bit more balance
nice
for the good guys here.
Yeah, so biggest weakness, I would say, at this point is that a lot of Christopher's offense isn't targetable. You've got that Dragon Horn, which after that first hit, like you said, can kind of go wherever it needs to. Yeah, the Atma weapon and the Offering, a very powerful combo, but you're kind of at the mercy of who you're targeting. And if you want to kill a specific target first, like for Tier 1, for example, that can be pretty rough. So
yeah.
But here's 10 hits, so...
And then on top of that, you have Sword Tech 7, which also deals damage to random targets, too. So 3 of your 4 characters are dealing random, non-targetable damage. That can become quite difficult in this fight, where order of operations really matters a lot.
Oh yeah, but down goes hit. Magic shouldn't be too far behind.
Yeah, so Magic will death counter with maybe a quarter, maybe not. We'll see if he's feeling cheap that day or not. No quarters here. And up to 2 instances of Dispel. So thankfully, there was only 1 Dispel, and quarter only hit half the party, and didn't hit Terra, who has the Atma weapon, which would have been pretty bad for the next tier here. So we'll see what happens. On tier 3, usually what happens is Sleep will open up with an AoE attack. It's either Merton or W-Wind. W-Wind is just a fractional damage spell. Merton is a fire and wind spell that deals damage to everything. So that could potentially be bad depending upon Mr. Warkin's elemental protection. And then Girl will usually either heal the entire party or do nothing. And it looks like it did nothing this time around, which is nice.
Yeah, sometimes Rest can also do nothing. It's basically just a 1 in 3 chance of him doing either Merton, W-Wind, or just hanging out. So, unfortunately, with the W-Wind, but that's, like, if he was going to do something, that's probably the correct thing. Calmness coming out, but that Calmness is from the Girl. That one is significantly better in that it just puts you to sleep. And then down goes the Girl, so all we have to do now is kill Rest, and hope that nothing too terrible happens.
Yeah, so the fact that Strago is put to sleep is not a huge deal here, as long as his other characters can get the damage in the right spot.
Yeah. The biggest thing is that Strago did not have the Golem Esper, so that part at least did not matter.
But
so we are under 10k.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things that you can do is... It's kind of counterintuitive, but Rest will only cast this spell if he's under 10,000 HP. So one of the things you could do is actually heal the boss out of the 10,000 HP threshold, so that this way you could heal your party up without getting countered, but Mr. Warkin pushing on through to the other side. That's a Doors reference in case you missed it there. I'll pick that back up for you. And
I love it.
Finally got his whole party up to Final Kefka, so we'll see what he does here.
Yeah, this should go a lot smoother for Questifer now that he's got the whole squad up there. That second Meteo was a little dicey. If Setzer had gotten hit by that, he would have died. So fortunately, that did not happen, and able to push forward.
Alright, so now we will see Final Kefka, and he's got a lot more damage this time. I don't think he'll be able to skip Fallen One. Remember, I mentioned Fallen One only comes out if your party does less than 30,000 damage worth of HP to Kefka. And based on what we've seen, he's not going to do that. So, Fallen One will happen. Does he have a Mega Elixir? Did he defeat Magimaster? I don't know. He does have Life 3, not Life 3, Cure 3, which is good enough most of the time.
And I know that he has, I want to say like 3 or 4 elixirs, so should be able to get through this, without worrying about MP consumption.
Alright, so out comes 4 strikes from the lightsaber there. 4 strikes from our samurai here, Setzer. So now he's got to be a little bit careful, and it's because of that condemned counter. It's getting down low, pretty low here, so we might see some weight tricking going on. in the menus while some other actions are going on. Hyperdrive is coming out now as a counter, so Kefka's under 30,000 HP. So he's going to have to regroup a little bit here. And we don't really want to poke the bear at this point. We kind of want to wait for the charge up of that Goner move, because during that charge up, Kefka will not counterattack. So he should hopefully do the Goner charge up here, and that'll give Christopher Warkin one turn to do as much damage as he possibly can. However, his party is in danger of dying if he does not heal some of them, at least, from the Goner attack itself. So I think we're going to see a Goner here, and I think at least Setzer is going to be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. So Setzer is in fact going to die here. Terra and Strago should survive this Goner. We get the quad bounce from Edgar, very nice.
Oh, and there it is!
And the crack pow!
That was enough damage on those other turns in order to seal the deal. 2-14-14 is the finish there for Christopher Warkin. Get your GGs in chat for that one there. As we do have pseudo jail, because not all of our characters were condemned.
Yeah, big grats to Christopher Warkin for dying to final Kefka and then just having the fortitude to come back and kill him. And speaking of Christopher Warkin, congratulations on your finish there. Way to display some the fortitude to come back and kill him. And so tell me your thoughts about the seed overall. What did you think?
I had a really slow start, and that kind of irked me. And guessing by the times and kind of the brief comments everyone else had a slow start too. So I was pretty happy with. So kind of seeing the times everyone else had, I was pretty happy with the run overall up until Whirlwind. 3 times in a row.
Randomizer's gonna rando, right?
Yeah, rando gonna rando.
Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore. Get your butt downstairs for the W wind. That tornado coming out at everybody. So yeah, what did you think of the seed overall? You said, you were a bit hunting for offense a little bit there. A bit of a slow start. You did get a lot of characters at first, and then got the Espers to follow later.
Yeah, I got the Espers to follow. I did the opera objective and was not impressed. Sad face. I ended up doing the Coliseum and ended up nabbing like 2 or 3 Illuminas, and that made up for it a lot. That made up for a lot of offense later on in the seed. I kind of wish I had done that sooner. So how that's gonna, whether or not I do the opera in the at the Randothon, I'm gonna run a couple more seeds, but like I've done the opera in like 3 or 4 seeds, and I've gotten an experience egg every time. So I don't know if that's intended or just or just bad, or well, I don't want to say bad luck or just luck,
Well, I mean, I wanted to encourage runners to do the opera because it is one of the more famous scenes in the game, and it sort of showcases the power of the objective system within Worlds Collide, where you can reward people for doing things, right? It's one of the great things I like about the Randomizer, and we'll ask you about that sort of thing is, with Worlds Collide, what are, why do you keep coming back to play the game? You're a relatively newer, fresher face on this scene. So tell us a little bit about your enjoyment of Worlds Collide and why you like playing it.
So my opinion, and this is my opinion, Final Fantasy VI is the greatest game ever made. Period. End of period. End of discussion. It's the best game ever made. So I had been wanting to get into this when I found it years ago, but I could never figure out how to start it in the check system. I'm just sitting here going, okay, I get characters. Where do I go? Where's the, I could never figure it out. And then, so I kind of left it alone. And I've played other randos. I've played Link to the Past rando. I've played Free Enterprise rando. So I'm not unfamiliar with playing rando. I just had to sit down and find the community and find the tutorials to figure it out. And once I did, I was hooked. It's got its hooks in me deep, So it's a matter of having a love for the original game like none other, and figuring out how this particular rando works. So if you have a love of rando, if you have a love of the original game, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I did sort of mention, during the race that runners not only need to know about the randomizer itself, like you mentioned, what checks are available to me, what's their rewards, sort of just the nuances of the particular randomizer, but you also need a pretty big knowledge of the vanilla game, because a lot of the stuff is largely unchanged from the original game. So it's nice to see, certain moments that come through when runners get out of some sticky situations, like you casted life 3 on yourself when that condemned counter was just about to go off, because you knew, hey, if I bring this character back up, they won't have that counter over their head anymore, and I need a way to continue on with this final fight. Same thing, even though it didn't really work out for you with the first Kefka fight, you knew that you needed to have a character up in order to sort of get around that fight, if you had any chance at all, right? So
right, I knew my damage potential was not there to kill Final Kefka before that condemned timer went off. So I knew I had to, instead of playing the short burst damage, I knew I had to play the long game if I had any shot. And my mistake, I would have had it, but my mistake there was throwing Cyan into a rage. And once I realized I had him in a rage, I knew I was toast.
Yeah.
And that's when I reset out.
Well, there you have it, Scooby-Doo. I would have gotten away with it too. Gar, you got any other questions for Christopher Workin here?
I don't think so, but I do want to say thank you very much for agreeing to be on the restream. It can be a lot of pressure, and I think you did really, really well. And we really enjoyed having you on, and you put on a great race. So thank you very much.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So anytime.
Yep, thank you so much again. Can't have the race without the runners, so appreciate you volunteering, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks to the Restream team, the Schwantz, Gar, the commentators, everybody. So, yeah, can't, as much as we can't have the race without the runners, can't have the races without the Restream team.
Awesome, thank you so much. And
cheers.
Gar, we got anything else we want to chat about before we wrap up this sort of submission?
I don't think so, other than to remind people that this is, in fact, a submission race. This is for Randothon 2024. This will benefit charity. It benefits NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So hope we get in. And thank you, Randothon staff in the future for reviewing our submission.
Yeah, so big shout out to Randomania, as we mentioned, does host our tracker, so that fun, lovely tracker that you saw up on the stream and the screen you see here, all on their site as well. And yeah, we hope that this has basically showcased the power of this game, the versatility of this game, why people enjoy racing the game, why people enjoy watching the game being raced. So we hope that we have your consideration for one of the slots in your marathon. So thank you so much as well to Gar to talking with me and helping me out with trying to not hear myself talk for 2 hours. So appreciate that.
Anytime, Schwantz. Schwantz, fantastic community contributor. Probably, I don't know if you're the most one. Like you'd have to fight Saberwolf, I think, but like it's really close. Does a ton of stuff for the community, and seriously, I can't thank you enough. So I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to do comms with you, and yeah, Randomania. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and we will catch everybody on the next one. Thanks again. Bye-bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Work.